viewers, welcome to this lecture entitled Ecological Modernization in Practice, Story of Nature Mates, Nature Club and NGOs. Now, as per the sustainable development concept whereby we are trying to work towards a better future and also not compromising the needs and requirements of the future generations, here in this case, the progress of sustainable development is being tried to be conceived in a little different way. Now, the new perceptions of sustainable development basically focuses on ecological efficiency, whereby there is efficiency of resource use, minimalization of waste and pollutant emissions, and also there is more focus upon the new roles of the so-called new actors, that is the NGOs, which are the non-governmental organization, followed by the nature clubs and the nature mates. And these NGO activities, such as the environmental civic groups and resident autonomous organizations, are working very hard for a favorable environmental conditions. Now, these NGO activities or these concepts had first emerged during the 1992 Earth Summit. Also, during this process only, the theory of ecological modernization had attracted attention as an important theoretical resource for analyzing and evaluating the environmental policies. Now, the first one, we'll begin with the nature mates. Now, one of the major focus of the nature mates is basically the wildlife research. Now, in this case of wildlife research, before the research has to be done, a lot of work goes into protection of the wildlife, the ways in which the wildlife can be saved. Now, as you all know, that the wildlife, specifically the animals like the elephants, are being killed for their tusks. The animals like tigers are being killed for their hides and bones. So, like the protection of environment is basically something that one must all delve upon, and while it comes to wildlife, more amount of carefulness is required. Now, at the same time, the trees are being felled unnecessarily. Cutting down of so many trees is increasing the air pollution levels. Now, totally keeping in consideration all of these attributes, the nature mates is something which is working towards the wildlife properties or caring more and more for the wildlife. So, one of the major focus areas of nature mates is to conduct well-structured research on wildlife, ecology, management and conservation of wild animals in natural and modified habitats, which are aimed to facilitate the use of scientific research to improve wildlife conservation, its proper implementation and management practices. Also, the people who are concerned about biodiversity conservation create new generation whereby the students have also been given huge responsibilities to look after this conservation of biodiversity. And also the people who are interested in wildlife research and conservation biology are also working towards it. The nature mates, they also believe in generating and sharing their learning experiences among those who seek to bring about a positive change in the field of wildlife conservation and research. Now, in order to prevent the irresistible harm or the irreversible harm that has already been done to the Earth's habitat, the humanity must emit less climate warming greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, while also removing excess carbon from the atmosphere. This will require an urgent and large-scale transition towards a clean and renewable sources of energy. Now, renewable sources, as we all know, is a kind of energy resource which can be used over and over again, which includes energy resources like solar energy, tidal energy, wind energy. Now, keeping in consideration all of these renewable forms of energy, there should be more and more focus towards the continuous utilization of renewable resources and less utilization of the non-renewable resources. This is one of the ways by which we can save the earth in certain manners. Now, natural climate solutions are at the heart of conservation international work. These are actions that conserve, restore, or improve the use of management of ecosystems while maintaining their capacity to absorb and store carbon from the atmosphere. Nature could at least get 30% of the way to solve the climate crisis while also providing a host of additional benefits, like filtering of fresh water, providing breathable air, and the other approaches that do not harm the environment. Now, one of the NGO which is also working towards this particular concern is Conservation International Center for Oceans. Now, ocean is actually at the center of global warming. The water which is there within the oceans is getting affected a lot because of the global warming. The melting of the glaciers is actually creating a direct impact upon the warming of the ocean. Now, keeping this in mind, this particular NGO is working towards achieving a sort of balance in creating a harmonious environment. Now, the oceans are the origin and engine of all life on this planet, and they are in extreme peril. The unprecedented sea level rise and dangerously warming waters which are caused by the climate change are among a list of grim impacts predicted by a recent United Nations report. By the end of the century, more of the world's seas could be hot, acidic, and lifeless, with catastrophic implication for marine life, Earth's climate, and food security of billions of people. Now, therefore, this particular NGO is actually working towards building on a building a mode by which the oceans can be conserved. Now, they are utilizing their own experiences and they are working with other business organizations, governments, and communities, which includes the Center for Ocean, which aims to protect the ocean at a global scale. The center does this by leveraging the latest technological and social innovations while partnering with other organizations, companies, and governments around the world. For centuries, the developments has come at the expense of nature. Whatever developments which are happening all across the globe, the nature was always or is at stake. Now, keeping this in mind, if this continues to happen, we will reach a time where we will not be able to fall back upon the beautiful world we had earlier. So this is where the NGOs work. This is where the actors of the government, actors which are concerned with the environmental government, they come to work and look towards a better future. This Conservation International, they basically aim to create self-sustaining, scalable conservation models that can be adapted from one country to another by focusing on large ecological systems that we call as landscapes and seascapes. From the Galapagos Islands to the rangelands of South Africa, this integrated sustainable landscapes and seascapes approach is offering lessons for how humanity can protect nature while weathering and even abating the climate breakdown and wildlife extinction. Also, one of the essential components of this particular organization is that, according to them, most of the goals cannot be met if they don't have healthy, functioning terrestrial water or terrestrial freshwater and marine ecosystems. And they are failing in protecting the nature if they do not work hand in hand with the other business organizations and with other government organizations. Now, together, they are actually working towards building a better future, building a better environment where all the people can live harmoniously, followed by the other living creatures which are there on planet Earth. The next NGO, which is of course on world level and works very intricately in India as well, is Nature Conservancy. They basically work in partnership with government, and the Indian government is committed to an ambitious sustainable development agenda and needs the support of an NGO followed by the private sector organizations in helping it to achieve the vision of an India that develops without destruction. They work closely with the Indian governments across the city, state, and center and involve them in all stages of the project development to ensure that their efforts are positively contributing towards the goals. And in this particular NGO, which is the Nature Conservancy, they are very, very methodical in their approach. And before planning out a project, they basically plan it or lay out or plan a layout thoroughly, whereby they measure each of the nooks and corners of the particular project. They define the measures of success, which enable them to effectively monitor and evaluate their impact on the ground. And they are also focused on creating smart scientific solutions that has the highest conservation impact but at a lower cost. But this particular NGO, which is the Nature Conservancy, they also work in partnership with regional, national, and international NGOs and collectively draw on each other's expertise and experience to design and experiment the conservation projects. In fact, they also have a science-based approach towards solving any particular environmental crisis. They also believe in supporting policies that are rooted in strong science, which is essential to balance the economic development and also the environmental conservation. They also have a wide pool of scientists all across the world and other experts on various subjects like freshwater and its biodiversity, marine and its biodiversity, forest, wildlife, land management, climate change, renewable energy, and more. And all their projects are basically aimed at finding nature-based solutions to environmental challenges that basically impact not only the human beings but also all the living creatures on planet Earth. Therefore, wherever they work, they keep the needs of people in mind and design projects that involve and benefit not only the local communities but also the people in large, and also at the same time they conserve towards or they work towards the conservation of the society. They also focus towards providing water and providing food and water sustainably, protect and restore the wild habitats, they build healthy cities and support renewable energy. So, on the basis of this particular portion, the first quiz is, which of the following strategies were adopted in Agenda 21? The options are Kyoto Protocol, Montreal Protocol, Summit on Sustainable Development, and First Earth Summit. Yes, you're right. The answer is point number D, that is First Earth Summit. The next NGO being Greenpeace. So, Greenpeace is an independent campaigning organization, and their basic mission is to use non-violent, creative confrontation to expose global environmental problems and to force the solutions which are essential to green and peaceful future. And their goal is also to ensure the ability of the earth to nurture life in all of its diversity. Therefore, Greenpeace basically seeks to protect biodiversity in all its forms, prevent pollution and abuse of the Earth's ocean, land, air, and fresh water, end all the nuclear threats, promote peace, global disarmament, and non-violence. And one of their core values basically involve to protect the environmental aspects, whereby they take great care to reflect their fundamental respect for democratic principles and to seek solutions that will promote global social equity. The Greenpeace also has certain fundraising principles whereby their worldwide activities are actually funded almost entirely by the donations from individuals all around the world and by private foundation grants. For several years now, they have been supported by an able and committed team which are involved with fundraising and also creating awareness about the environmental issues, not only at the people or within the people at global scale, but also at the local scale. And over the years, this team has helped them to inspire more than 350,000 individual supporters to join their mission and to help stay as a financially stable and independent organization. They have also contracted Direct Dialogue Initiatives India Private Limited, whose mission is to raise funds ethically for environmental and social causes. They also office to actively solicit funds to maximize the long-term income to enable organization to achieve its global mission. Greenpeace also works actively to ensure transparency and public accountability in its campaigning, fundraising, and financial management practices. And while raising funds, they accurately describe their activities and their needs. The Greenpeace policies and practices ensure that donations further their organization's mission. And as a matter of policy, they do not seek or accept funds from government, corporations, political parties, or multinational governmental bodies such as the United Nations or the European Community, as this could compromise their independent status with regard to environmental issues that they represent. Greenpeace also exists because this fragile earth deserves a voice. It needs solution, it needs to change, it needs action. And in this current world order, materialism basically supersedes human values, and therefore economy is more treasured than ecology, and profits are prioritized over people. So this ceaseless demand for more is pushing soil, air, water, food, forests, and climate closer to an inevitable collapse. And Greenpeace India exists because of the activists, supporters, donors, and volunteers who believe in taking collective action for the environment. Now, on the basis of this particular information, the next MCQ is Global 500 Award is given for achievement in the field of, the options are population control, movement against terrorism, movement against narcotics, environmental protection. Yes, you're right. The answer to this particular question is point number D, that is environmental protection. The next NGO is EDF, or what is being known as Environmental Defense Fund. Now, EDF helps Congress pass the largest climate legislation in US history. For more than a year, EDF worked with key congressional office and Biden administration officials, as well as other leading environmental, justice, laborers, and other business interests, helping Congress pass the Inflation Reduction Act. The climate law is projected to reduce the US greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by the year 2030, which is a historic step forward in our help, or in their help, to fight to stabilize the climate. So, this EDF basically helps the Southwest also to cope with the mega drought, which is actually ruining their area. The US Southwest is suffering from the most extreme mega drought in over 1200 years. The Colorado River reservoirs, which provide water to 40 million people, have plummeted to dangerously low levels. And also, EDF is helping communities manage increasingly scarce water supply in various ways. Therefore, the research which is being led by EDF in 2021 also focused on another most important problem which planet Earth is suffering, and that is on the methane emissions. So they have concerted a global action using the existing technologies which could cut the methane pollution in half by the year 2030 and also slow the rate of global warming by as much as 30%. Now, coming to the Nature Club, it is indeed a dedicated program to create awareness amongst all the people living across the planet Earth to think about preserving and protecting the nature. So they inculcate these habits not only amongst the students but also amongst the faculties and staffs at various levels. And Nature Club is basically a convergence of nature lovers from various aspects of the world which are living within the society. So they promote, monitor and operate the environmental and sustainable activities in the society, starting from absolutely the ground levels and of course rising to the global scale. These nature clubs which are there, they have certain objectives, some of them being to sensitize, motivate and educate the people about environment conservation, to create awareness amongst the society about environment and its related issues, to organize activities to reduce pollution in the area, also even in the local districts, to encourage efforts to protect and conserve biodiversity in the recent areas or in the close by groups, to execute small scale projects within the local areas and also at the global scale, and also to contribute in environment awareness and conservation drives in collaboration with regional nature clubs and institutes. There is also an organization called the National Green Corps, NGC, which is a national program across India that was being conceptualized and initiated by the Ministry of Environment and Forests Government of India. They also have certain basic objectives, which includes to educate children about their immediate environment by increasing awareness, to impart knowledge about the ecosystems and their interdependence, followed by the need for survival through visits and other demonstrations. Thirdly, to mobilize the youth by instilling in them a spirit of scientific inquiry about the environmental problems, and finally, to involve the youth in active environmental preservation efforts. Now, the nature club which is there is actually also working towards maintaining a balance within the society. So together, if all these nature clubs, the nature mates and the NGOs, they work together towards a better environment, towards a better society, then we can obviously look towards a brighter future. Therefore, finally, I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that this concept of ecological modernization is not only just the work of ecological modernists, but they also include the actors from all the aspects of nature, being the nature club members, the nature mates, and also specifically the NGOs. And when all these groups work together, of course, they will build a better and a brighter future. Now, on the basis of this particular presentation, the next MCQ is, in which of the following sectors NGOs are playing an important role? The options are in governing the police force, in framing the policy related to laws, in framing the environmental policy, in deforestation. Yes, you're right. The answer to this particular question is point number C, in framing the environmental policy. Thank you.